The Viperwolf Ambush. We begin with a classic survival horror setup in the pitch-black jungle of Pandora. Jake Sully, completely out of his depth and separated from his group on his first ever day trip on the planet. He finds himself surrounded by a pack of viper wolves, sleek, six-legged predators that move with a terrifying hive-mind intelligence. He is flailing with a makeshift torch, the firelight barely keeping the snapping jaws at bay, and it is painfully obvious that he is seconds away from being torn to pieces. But then, we see a beautiful Navi warrior appear from the dense jungle. Neytiri doesn't just save Jake, she saves him just hours after nearly killing him herself. Awa and the Otokarina spare Jake from Neytiri's XL arrows, so she aims them at the viper wolves circling this stranger instead. Neytiri kills the alpha instantly in the most badass way possible. Slow motion. She then descends into the action to engage the pack in close quarters combat and help this hapless human. She moves with a fluid, lethal grace, using her bow as a blunt instrument to crack skulls and unleashing a guttural hiss that scatters the remaining beasts. What makes this moment truly badass, however, is not the violence, but her reaction to it. She doesn't pose or celebrate, not even in slow motion. She is furious and heartbroken. She scolds Jake for his ignorance and immediately kneels to mourn the predator she was forced to kill, revealing a warrior code where death is a tragedy, not a triumph. This moment instantly establishes her among Pandora's fiercest protectors and also someone you really don't want to get on the wrong side of. The fall of Home Tree. The destruction of Home Tree is an apocalypse. The RDA gunships rain incendiary rounds and tear gas into the clan's living room, causing the massive biological skyscraper to collapse in a storm of fire, ash, and splintering wood. Amidst this absolute chaos where most characters are screaming or paralyzed by shock, Neytiri is a pillar of tragic strength. She watches her father, Tukan, die, impaled by shrapnel, and in that moment of shattering grief, she inherits the mantle of leadership. She accepts his bow, the symbol of the clan's defense, and immediately suppresses her emotional collapse to lead her mother and the survivors out of the kill zone. And then comes the moment of steel. When she spots Jake, the man she loves, who she now realizes was complicit in this destruction, she doesn't hesitate. She screams, "Get away from here! Never come back!" and rejects him entirely to focus on saving her kin. It is a brutal, necessary emotional severance that proves her loyalty to her people supersedes her own heart. Riding the nightmare. In the climactic battle of the first film, the Na'vi ground forces are being routed. The RDA's AMP suits are slaughtering them with 30mm autocannons, and the line is breaking. Neytiri is unhorsed, her Banshee CZ is dead, and she is on the back foot, hiding behind a tree, with RDA ground forces bearing down on her. She is unable to escape and facing inevitable death. Then, the Thanator appears. This is the apex predator that terrified Jake in the first act, a monster that usually kills anything in its way, but instead of attacking Neytiri, it lowers its head, offering a neural bond, a connection usually reserved for the fiercest warriors in ancient songs. Neytiri bonds with the beast and becomes Palulukan Makto. She launches herself onto Quaritch's AMP suit, using the Thanator as a biological tank. The Palulukan is soon returned to Awa, courtesy of Quaritch's oversized novelty blade. But still, weaponizing the jungle's own nightmare against a common enemy? That's pretty hardcore. Ending Quaritch. In the first movie, the duel between Jake and Colonel Quaritch leaves our hero utterly defeated. Jake's avatar is held aloft by the AMP arm and suppressed, and his helpless human body is suffocating in the Link Shack as Quaritch prepares to end his life with the help of one very sharp knife. The villain has won, and our hero has seemingly failed, but Quaritch forgot about the variable he couldn't control: Neytiri. A silent shot comes from the tree line. After wriggling free from under her slain Thanator mount, Neytiri and that bow are back in the game. The first arrow slams into Quaritch's chest and stops Quaritch from ending Jake's life. The Colonel sees our badass come into view, and that just cannot be a good feeling. He knows he's in trouble, but it's too late. The second arrow buries itself deep in his chest. Neytiri approaches, not with a roar, but with a cold, silent focus. She has finished what Jake couldn't, killing the man who burned her home and killed her father. But while revenge is on her mind, so is the human Jake, or as she would say, Ma Jake. And in a stunning shift of tone, she immediately drops the warrior persona to cradle Jake's tiny, dying human body, placing the oxygen mask on his face and seeing him, truly seeing him, for the first time. It is the ultimate badass moment, taking a life in order to save one, switching from killer to savior in a single heartbeat. The train raid. We catch up with our warrior woman more than a decade later. Has she mellowed a little with age, lost some of her sass? Let's take a closer look at this scene to find out. The short answer is no. Neytiri has evolved from a tribal hunter into a hardened guerrilla commando. We see a high-speed maglev train cutting through the Pandoran landscape, guarded by heavy airborne gunships. Neytiri drops from the sky like a phantom on her Ikron in what is becoming her trademark swooping descent into a battle zone. Dispatching the door gunner with ease, then wheeling round on the Banshee to find herself, no more than 3 seconds later, face to face with the Samson pilot. His windshield is not much use to him as he takes one of those famous XL arrows to the heart, dying within milliseconds. The aircraft is a fireball very shortly thereafter, and Neytiri gets her first action of the Way of Water. She lets out a well-deserved victory cry to mark the conquest. The Rain Ambush. At the old Link Shack from the first movie, Quaritch's new recombinant squad, avatars with human memories, have captured the Sully children. They are elite soldiers, supersized into elite giant blue soldiers, holding the kids hostage in the pouring rain. Neytiri signals her position with an animal call, a coded message that tells her children she's near. Then she erupts from the darkness. She pins a recombinant soldier, Fike, to the jungle floor with a giant arrow to the right eye. The force of the shot lifting him off his feet as if he'd been hit by a bus, an extremely sharp, pointy bus. Before the others can react, she takes another out as the kids escape, using the environment and the darkness to turn their numerical advantage into a death trap. This one is a classic upper chest impact. This encounter establishes a terrifying new truth for the sequel. Neytiri fighting for a cause is dangerous, but Neytiri fighting for her children is a force of nature that should be avoided at all costs. Honestly, just don't mess with her, okay? The Sea Dragon Rampage. Now to the emotional turning point of the Way of Water. Netaim, her firstborn son, is shot and dies on a rocky outcrop in Pandora's ocean. Jake and Neytiri are both broken by grief, but they have no time to waste. Quaritch and the RDA still have Kiri held hostage. After a quick pep talk from Jake, Neytiri breaks in a different way. She turns her sorrow into a pure, feral rage. She and Jake storm aboard the Sea Dragon. Neytiri swoops down in that trademark epic style. She delivers body and head shots, back shots, every kind of shot. She slaughters the RDA crew with a brutality not seen before, repeatedly reusing the same arrow to rack up as many as 10 victims, using her bow as a club, and then moving on to a knife. After her bow has snapped from beating on one human skull too many with excessive force, she lets out a scream that doesn't sound human or even Na'vi. It is the sound of a wounded animal lashing out. The terrified look on Spider's face says it all. This is no rational soldier. This is a mother who has nothing left to lose. And this could have been even more badass. Big Jim Cameron decided to cut some of the gnarlier parts of Neytiri's revenge rampage out. Presumably because the audience just wouldn't have been able to handle so much legendary killing in such a short space of time. Or maybe because she was on the verge of going too far. Who knows? A son for a son. The climax of the sequel features a Mexican standoff. Quaritch holds Kiri hostage with a knife to her throat, demanding Jake's surrender. Jake is trying to negotiate, but the situation is a stalemate. Neytiri changes the game. She grabs Spider, Quaritch's own son. She is not playing around. She states, "Son for son," and slices Spider across the chest. This is not a bluff. She has untamed rage in her. The look in her eyes is completely unhinged. She is fully prepared to execute this child, one she has spent years helping bring up, to save Kiri and avenge her own son. This absolute ruthlessness is the only thing that breaks Quaritch. He realizes she is crazier than he is. She out-monsters the monster. Again, there is a deleted version of this one. The version that didn't make the theatrical cut reveals the true depth of Neytiri's despair and rage. In the movie, she drops Spider once Kiri is released. But in the deleted sequence, she doesn't stop. Even after Kiri is safe, Neytiri continues to hold the knife to Spider's throat, her eyes wide with bloodlust. She wants to kill him simply to make Quaritch feel the pain she is feeling. Jake has to beg her repeatedly to try and talk her off the ledge, grabbing her arm to stop her from murdering the boy. It recontextualizes her entire arc, showing us that she isn't a sanitized Disney hero. She is a complex, grieving mother pushed so far past the brink that she nearly lost her soul to vengeance. Next up is Fire and Ash. We can only assume there will be many more badass moments from Neytiri. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button for more Avatar breakdowns.